Hello, and thank you for joining me as I explore the physicality of meter. Let's begin with a brief experiment. As you listened to the opening of Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance with Somebody, did you sit perfectly still? Or did you find yourself tapping a finger, bobbing your head, maybe even wiggling your shoulders and dancing just a little bit? Were these responses voluntary or involuntary? Did you feel that the music was making you move? If so, what musical elements evoked physical response? These are the types of questions that we'll consider in our time together today. During our overview of the physicality of meter, we will consider both performer and listener as the subject of study, and look at data collected through motion capture, video, and spectrogram. One purpose of these studies is to develop an understanding of embodied meter, or goal-directed interactions between body and music. This includes considering the influence of meter on the body, and also contemplating the role the body plays in generating and expressing meter. Another purpose for studying the physicality of meter is the potential benefit of using music and motion in the classroom. Richard Boudoir presented a paper at the 2016 Society of Music Theory Conference on the physical impact of metric regularity on the performer. A spectrographic analysis of a Glenn Gould recording of Schoenberg Opus 19 No. 1 revealed the creaking of Gould's well-worn piano chair. The creaks are shown as blue lines across the graph. During the ametric beginning of the piece, on the left of the graph, there are noticeably more creaks caused by a physically restless Gould shifting his weight in his chair. As the meter settles in and becomes more regular, the right half of the graph, Gould settles into his chair, and there are far fewer creaks. One moment of particular interest is the first large creak gap, which occurs during measure 7, the first moment of metric clarity in the piece. A clear 2/4 is depicted here. Listener-based studies confirm the correlation between metric clarity and physical motion. Brigitte Berger led a study considering the interactions between physical motion, meter, and timbre. Participants were fitted with 28 motion capture sensors and asked to move in a way that seemed natural, along with music from a variety of genres. The music included moments of high pulse clarity, shown here by the clear height and periodic repetition of pulses, and also moments of less metric clarity, as seen by the more sporadic height and less periodic frequency of peaks, and also the increased noisiness shown as the thickened black lines between peaks. The results of this study are reflected in the percentage of participants who shared a common physical response to a specific musical feature. The main takeaway from the study is the direct impact of metric clarity on the amount, speed, and type of physical motion, influencing whole body engagement. Based on her recent video study of dancers interacting with familiar and less familiar popular music, Robin Attis would add to Berger's argument that the motion of several body parts at different pulse levels reflects an embodiment of the hierarchical structure of meter. Now that we are aware of the connection between metric clarity and physical motion, let's revisit Whitney Houston's 1987 hit. begin dancing immediately? Or maybe you waited until about 4 seconds when the bass synthesizer comes in and the drums become more periodic. You may have even waited until 12 seconds, right after the woo, when the brass synthesizer presents a new pulse layer and the drums take on a standard 4/4 backbeat pattern. But why are we more inclined to move at these particular moments? Justin London focuses his research on meter from a listener perspective. In the first few moments, the listener must abstract information from the music and generate a mental and physical conception of meter. The opening few seconds of the Whitney Houston piece are underdetermined as they present a rhythm, but not enough information to generate a clear meter. When the drums take up the more periodic pattern at 4 seconds, we have at least 2 periodic pulse layers, our minimum requirement for meter. We also have the addition of the bass synthesizer, inserting a new pulse layer at 4 seconds, and then the brass bringing in another pulse layer at 12 seconds. These moments add layers and increase the clarity of the pulse, making the music more danceable. So what parts of your body were you inclined to move? I would argue that by 12 seconds, we have enough pulse clarity to encourage whole body interaction. What about the performer? Certainly, performer and listener metric interactions are not mutually exclusive. Andrew Mead argues for a connection between listener and performer physical responses to music. Listeners may entrain not only to music, but to the performer through mimicking physical gestures, including breathing. This type of relationship between listener and performer is known as kinesthetic empathy. The listener's entrainment and physical response to the music is influenced by the way the performer is expressing the meter in bodily gestures. If this type of empathy is possible in classical music, I believe it's also possible in the dance music of the 1980s. Let's listen to an example. As you listened to the example, were you inclined to dance due to the familiarity and metric clarity of the piece? I found my response was a little different from my previous responses to the Whitney Houston examples. I was inclined not only to move along, but to move in a very specific manner, empathetic with the performer's physical response to the meter. Before I close, I would like to recommend a pedagogic application of the union of physicality and meter. Diane Urista performed a video-based study of her students moving to music in a number of classroom exercises designed to teach beat, meter, phrase, and form through physical motion. One of the exercises involved having students, represented here as circles, move to music until they hear a cadence. At the cadence point, they are to stop and come into contact with another student. The music continued for several phrases, and the students continued moving, slowing and coming into contact with other students in anticipation of each cadence. This exercise is supported by Robin Attis's finding that listeners are inclined to recognize large and small formal divisions, often hypermetric divisions, through changes in the speed and type of their physical motion. In summary, performer and listener physical responses are linked to the level of metric clarity in the music. The listener's perception of and response to the meter is influenced by the performer's musical and physical interpretation of the work. And finally, the intrinsic connection between meter and the body make movement exercises an effective pedagogic tool. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon.
Ooh, yeah.